Okay, looks like we're live. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of NetGuru's Disruption Talks. For those of you who don't recognize my face, I'm Sean O'Connor, and I lead the fintech sales team here at NetGuru. So I was asked by the marketing team today to have a little chat with one of our customers, Total Processing, and their chief product officer, who we'll introduce in a minute. But yeah, the chat today is going to be a little bit around payment processing in the market, and so I thought I'd open with a cool little fact or statistic. So I was doing some research for today's episode, and I read somewhere that currently card payments account for around 48% of transaction, and credit transfers account for around 23%, debit cards 22%, and the number of credit transfers within Europe increased in 2019 by 6.6%, which goes to 22.4 billion, which means a total value of 149 trillion spent through payment processing each year, which is an incredible amount. And that kind of shows the depth of the industry. So I thought today would make a really cool episode. And on that note, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker. So today we have with us Dally Singh, the Chief Product Officer for Total Processing. Hi, Dally. You're on mute, Dally.
That's a good start, isn't it? Yeah, I want to say thank you to Sean and NetGuru for having me on. I'm really excited about this. I've not done anything like this before, so looking forward to it.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've met a number of times, and we know each other on a personal level. And I've always found kind of conversations with you like very, very like insightful. Your kind of knowledge of the total processing platform is incredible. So I guess you're the perfect person to kind of bring on the show today to kind of discuss a bit about it.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So let's start with a bit of let's talk about kind of the personal stuff. So like the bit about Dally Singh and yourself. Maybe you can give like a quick introduction to the viewers, and then we'll start delving into kind of your like career and your past and that kind of thing. We'll go from there.
Yeah, of course. So I've always been into tech. I'll kind of just take it back slightly. Won't take too long. Cool. So yeah, always been into tech, kind of anything tech related. Whether it's tech products, anything tech related to music, video, anything, I've always kind of had that passion for it. And I always knew I was going to pursue a career in tech, but never too sure in what sense. And as I went through school and college, I kind of realized developing and creating things is something that I've always been fond of and always enjoyed doing. So I wanted a job essentially where I'd be making things. And that kind of led me into software development. So went to uni, got a degree in software engineering. After that, I did a master's in computer science because I kind of didn't want to step into the real world too quick. I was enjoying uni far too much, so I wanted to stay just a little bit longer. So I did that, got my master's, and then it was time to actually step into the real world. And so I'm originally from Birmingham and in the United Kingdom, for those who aren't from the UK. And I couldn't actually really find something that I wanted to do in Birmingham. There were a lot of jobs available, but the roles were very senior based. And for me to kind of get my foot onto the ladder was quite difficult to do. And Manchester kind of rose up and I saw a few job opportunities, went to the interviews, and I just felt like there was a completely different vibe here. It felt more up and coming as opposed to kind of already reached that point.
Sure.
So I ended up moving to Manchester and I've been here for roughly, I believe, 12 years now. And initially what I did was I worked for a few agencies, so a lot of web agencies. So kind of just developing your kind of WordPress websites, Magento websites, some custom builds, but everything was kind of similar in the sense of the brochure type websites. It was essentially companies pitching their businesses through a website, kind of an online presence. And yes, I did enjoy that, but it did kind of become a little bit monotonous after a period of time. And I wanted to do something more than that. I knew tech was more than that. I knew the web was bigger than that. So I then started freelancing, started looking for projects on my own terms that kind of appealed to me. I wanted to primarily focus on web applications and build solutions as opposed to just your standard websites. Did that for a number of years, worked really, really well. But then the freelancing kind of market started to decline. And like I said before, I've always been into developing things. I wanted to develop something for myself, and I've always been into fitness. I'm a keen fitness enthusiast. So I developed a fitness application, and I did that for a while, and it did quite well, actually. The difficult bit with that was scaling it. So it was one of those things which had a very niche market, and I got it up to a really good point, but I couldn't really take it any further than that. So I kind of left that and started looking at what was new in the market, because tech is always evolving. And
Absolutely.
I didn't want to kind of pigeonhole myself in a position where I'd just carry on doing the same thing. I wanted to see, well, what is new now? What are people doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking for opportunities around Manchester again, and total processing arose. It seemed interesting. I had no background in finance or payments or anything like that. I just kind of liked the look of the company. I didn't actually even know the size of the company at that point either. I just got the interview and I thought, I'll go check it out. So had my interview. It was a very unique interview with our current CTO and one of the directors of total processing, Jean-Michel. And I liked him as an individual. I just thought, you know what, it's a company ran by guys who are still fairly young and, very open-minded. And I like what they're doing. And I also like the idea of joining a company where it's still kind of starting off, because total processing itself has been around for about 5 years, but really we've put the pedal to the metal for the last 3. So I thought, I'm getting in there nice and early. I like the guys who are working there. I like what they're doing. Everyone's really hardworking. I joined and have never looked back since then, to be honest. It's been an amazing experience, and I'm sure I'll go into it further, but I think that pretty much sums up my introduction.
Yeah, sure. I obviously was looking kind of like into your route into the role that you're at now as Chief Product Officer, and you started as like a senior engineer or a senior developer up to that Chief Product Officer bit. So I guess in like this 3-year period, obviously there's been a lot of work and kind of a lot of effort required to get to that point. But also I feel like the company has kind of grown in that same trajectory as well. Is there anything outside of just kind of hard work which would put down to the success of you and also total processing?
I think you're right in saying when I did join TEP, I was a senior developer, and I've always been a developer at heart, and I probably will always be a developer at heart, because I just love creating things. So I joined TEP as a developer, and then slowly moved up to heading up the department alongside the CTO. Then I was VP of tech, and now recently I'm now the Chief Product Officer. So what I like is the fact, and again, it comes down to the whole pigeonholing thing. It was never like, now that you're a developer, you're going to remain a developer. And this goes for across the whole board at TEP. Everyone is very much involved within the company and what happens. And everyone kind of gets to touch on little things here and there and just see what's going on, and not just view it from a micro perspective, but view it from a macro perspective. So I got in TEP and started developing tech alongside Jean. And this was tech that we believed that we needed and would kind of push us further. And it's kind of got us to the position that we're at the moment now, where, we started off as just a team of essentially 5 or 6 people, to the point where we're roughly about 60, 70 strong now in multiple locations.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I guess like you'd categorize yourself as like a hands-on kind of Chief Product Officer, right? So you're still involved in kind of not just steering the direction, but also helping the team in like building the solution that you're building.
Very much so. I like to get my hands dirty. It kind of incentivizes the rest of the team as well. I kind of don't want to be in the position where I'm just always kind of giving orders and telling people what to do. I very much want to be doing it alongside them. I think it just instills a lot of confidence and respect as well, and loyalty, which is something that we kind of thrive upon within the company. So, who's to say what position I'll be in the future, but I'll always just want that small percentage of, some time where I can get my hands dirty as well.
Definitely. I think, like leading from the front is obviously like a big inspiration for those who are not just like the senior people you have below you, but also the new engineers or developers who've just come straight out of university and they come to a company that is, one of the fastest growing in Europe at the moment. And you just see that the Chief Product Officer is still getting involved and getting the hands dirty. I think that's like, that's exactly where we should have all CPOs in the industry. So what do you think like the average day for you, or the average week looks like for you in total processing?
It kind of varies. So I haven't been in this role for that long of a period of time yet. So I'm still very much involved in kind of the day-to-day as well. So I'll kind of touch upon the CPO bit at the moment, because that is the bit that's exciting me the most with my new role. a lot of it is kind of research, seeing what our competitors are doing, or just what's happening in the payments landscape in general. Kind of looking at our internal processes, how they can be improved. Externally, in terms of our products, no matter how good they may be, how they can be bettered as well, what new features we can add on. And then after that, kind of dealing with our bigger clients. So any issues they may have, I still like to get quite involved. I think that's quite important as well when you're working with such large scale businesses, that their touch points are senior members of staff, because it then does feel quite personal that they're being looked after by someone who's been there for a while and does have that senior position. Another thing I like to focus on is actually developing the team as well. I think that's a key thing across any company, really, and something that we've emphasized on within TP, nurturing kind of younger junior developers to bring them up in terms of their skill sets as a developer, but then also kind of instilling that business knowledge as well, so they actually know what the business as a whole does. Just even from sales to marketing, I think it applies.
Yeah, 100%. And you've obviously like this projected growth like across total processing, where to the point where you've expanded right into a new office now. So how do you keep like the metrics of like the development and like different types of offerings that you have, for example, for the EMEA customers versus now the MENA region? How do you measure these kind of metrics and checkpoints for the team that are relevant to these new directions?
From my point of view as CPO, I think it kind of falls down into two categories. We've essentially got internal processes, and then we've got the products that we are offering out to our merchants and our clients. So focusing on internal processes first, it essentially comes down to resources. Like I want to, and I will be implementing strategies and workflows that essentially frees up resources. This will essentially free up time, but then also cash as well as a company, because the last thing, or what any company would want to do, is keep growing but scale headcount, because there comes a point where you just can't keep doing that. It's kind of hard to stay afloat. And for external processes, it then comes down to products. So innovating and developing new products that will essentially help our clients, but then also focusing on the ones that we already have as well. Improving workflow and processes for our merchants, essentially, which ultimately will reduce friction for them as well. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, makes total sense. I really appreciate you giving like kind of an overview of like the whole of your role as like the chief product officer and kind of the personal side of Dally Singh, so to speak. Yeah. I guess like this is probably your most exciting question to answer usually, because you've been there from the ground up. But for those who don't know total processing, or maybe don't really understand like the processing market, like in general, how does it work? Like what's kind of key customers for now, like targets for the future? Like what's the kind of overall landscape of total processing?
Okay, so kind of coming down to
it's a big question, I know.
It is a big question. I'll have to break it into smaller segments. So I'll start off with what is it that total processing do? In a nutshell, what we do is we process payments, but that's too simplified. That's a bit like saying Apple just develops iPhones and all the phone does is make phone calls, which we know isn't true. So there's a lot more to that. What we do, yes, is process payments, but on a bigger scale, what we do is provide solutions to our merchants. And I think that's our main USP. That's where we're differentiated from companies like Stripe or WorldPay and all of these kind of bigger key players. We don't like to view our merchants as almost like customers. We like to see them as partners. Essentially, we want to help them grow their business and reduce as much friction as we can for them when it comes to taking payments, because ultimately their success is our success. So we offer bespoke solutions in all kind of different manners. So we have our internal products that we'll offer out to them. And if they do need them slightly changing or adjusting or something added on, we're more than happy to do that, working with them again to improve their workflow. Whether it comes to anything kind of beyond that custom approach, we can still do that. So again, you do have to set boundaries where sometimes you have to say, you know what, no, we can't do that. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen anyone else kind of give the same kind of offering as that we do and use the same kind of approach, a very personal approach, which we managed to scale very well as well. You know, considering that we started off so small and the size that we're at, we can still maintain that and do that with our clients.
Okay. And do you see a tipping point at which point kind of we need to automate some sort of processes in order to continue being able to kind of build like these bespoke solutions for the customers?
The thing is, there will always come that point. That's the thing. There always comes a point where you have to say no. And sometimes as payment processors, you will kind of know better, but it's kind of finding that medium ground. It's happened in so many industries where sometimes there is a bit of backlash where people don't like something, but eventually give time and they do adopt and actually eventually start to like and realize, you know what, that was the optimum way to do it. Sometimes people won't kind of see the pitfalls that we can see. And again, we can do that because we've got the experience being in the sector for so long and working across so many sectors, across so many merchants. We see so many synergies where you wouldn't even think between certain sectors. So being in that position, I think sometimes we just have to kind of illustrate that to our merchants and our customers as well. And in most cases, it's always taken well because you're essentially amplifying your intelligence to them. And they appreciate that because then it makes them think, you know what, seeing with your point of view and what you're saying, we didn't kind of view it from that angle. And most people are very receptive to that.
Yeah, I like that idea. And as well as this kind of business, the kind of knowledge passover that you give to your customers and the detail that you offer in your platform, what I've noticed from my perspective, from an outsider looking in, is everything feels very simple, as in not that the tech's not complex, but it feels simple to use, right? So the user experience is detailed, but very easy to navigate. And I think that that's like a real standout point for total processing. Do you think that's always been the case? Or is that some like a learning experience that you've built into the platform over time?
No, to be honest, I think that has always been the case. We have that ethos in the company, and everyone kind of that we've employed has just naturally kind of fallen into it, where we focus on solutions and not the problems. Yeah, they may be there, but you're never going to get anywhere by just kind of whinging and complaining about the fact that it is there. If anything, we kind of was more off the fact that we have something to solve. It's a challenge. And as developers, I believe everyone should have that embedded into them, not even developers, but even people in sales and marketing. You will always kind of have those issues that you need to overcome. If you don't have that characteristic of how can I do that, I don't think you go very far in life, to be honest. And I think that's what's really projected TP as well. We focus so much on finding solutions. As hard as it may be, we've enjoyed the process of actually finding those solutions.
Yeah, getting stuck in.
Yeah. Very much so again.
Yeah, get the hand dirty, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So before I kind of move on, I've noticed a question that came through on LinkedIn. So this is from Thomas.
Okay.
So he asked, in hindsight, do you think that having no previous experience in the industry made you better offer to a job? As in like fresh eye, no bias, or do you feel like you're lacking maybe industry insights when you went in at that beginning position?
There's kind of two answers to this. So I'll give you the first answer, which I kind of developed in my first couple of months of being there. Initially, I thought to myself, this is way too difficult. I felt like I wouldn't be able to do it. And that's natural to feel. That's a thing. I stepped into an industry where I knew I was a good developer, but I knew nothing about the industry itself. But after a while, you start to realize that's normal. You've been employed for a reason. And that's kind of what I hung on to. And I say this to all the developers that have joined as well, that sometimes it can seem, quite intimidating joining a company where people are having conversations about certain things where you have no idea what they're talking about. Most of the conversation is filled with acronyms that you don't understand what they mean.
But that's the fintech market.
That's the thing.
Acronyms, yeah.
It's just acronyms. There's more acronyms than there are actual words. So you're there, you're taking all that in and you don't understand. Well, the thing is, in any kind of job and any kind of industry, you need to have the ability to grow and learn. I don't think there's any job where anyone should just stop learning. And
sure.
If you do that, you're not going to enjoy your job. You can imagine if you're doing something for 30, 40 years, you've qualified on day one, you've now gone into the job and you've enjoyed it for the first couple of years, but then realize I'm actually going to be doing this for the rest of my life. There's nothing new I'm going to learn. There's nothing new I'm going to do. Why would anyone want to do that? And I wouldn't say once that kicked in, once I kind of just focused more on that, I started just taking everything in, but you obviously still need to have the thirst and the drive to want to learn that as well, which I had being there, and which all of the developers and the rest of the staff members at TP have too. So I actually think it puts you in a better position, because it's almost like you realize you need to do something to be better at your job. So you're much more proactive and reactive towards what's going on, as opposed to thinking you know enough, coming and then being almost overconfident and a little arrogant, thinking, well, I've already got this experience, so I'm going to be fine. So you take more of a lackadaisical approach where you're a bit more relaxed. Whereas when you do enter TP, you are thrown into the deep end, and it may be scary for some and may sound bad, but it does work. We've seen it work. It's not as if you don't receive the help, because I've never worked in a team that is actually so helpful. That's the other thing as well. The one thing we do say is, the team itself is very busy, but never be afraid to ask for help. And everyone is always there to give you a hand. That's the thing. If there's something you don't understand or you don't know, well, we're not going to know that until you tell us. But once you do ask, we'll tell you, and you will retain that information.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. So, as for the comments on LinkedIn, keep them coming. Any questions you have for Dally, we'd love to ask them. I guess we've got still a little bit of the episode to go, so fire away, and I'll make sure I squeeze any questions in at the end. I could add on to that previous question, actually. If you were to speak to younger Dally and give him like a piece of career advice, what would you suggest?
I think one of the biggest things I didn't appreciate was the people around you, the resources available to you and your team. I was always very hard-headed where, and again, this is probably from social media and being so young, you see your Elon Musks and Mark Zuckerbergs and all sorts, and you have that thing in your head where you're like, I'm going to make something amazing by myself. I'm going to release it by myself, and it's going to make millions and billions of pounds. And I would have done it all by myself, because everyone wants that story. So when I was younger, I was very fixated on just doing it by myself, trying to just cover every single base. And, for most people, that isn't really possible. That's the thing. Somewhere along the line, you need a little bit of help. And it's not shameful or embarrassing to ask. That's the thing. So it's not that I wasn't a good team player. I preferred not to be a team player. I love working with people, but I kind of just wanted to do something by myself. And once I realized, well, in the real world, that's not really how it goes. Everything changed. Like, I rely so much on other people now, even in the position that I'm in, being in a senior position. It doesn't mean that I know everything. It doesn't mean I could go, it doesn't mean I wouldn't go up to someone junior and ask them a question that I may not be sure about or may not know. And again, it just comes down to expanding your knowledge, and it doesn't matter where it's coming from. You just need to be accepting of that.
For sure. Cool. All right. So I saw a little article as well talking about, it was from Gartner actually, but the payment processing is never going to be the same again following the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, COVID has been around for a while now. It seems to be in every conversation, so I thought I may as well include it in this one too. So the question is, like, what, if any, change have you noticed within TP and its customers since the start of the pandemic?
Since the start of the pandemic, did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen like a huge increase in like online payments and larger transaction volumes?
It's a tough one because it's quite a sensitive subject, isn't it? Obviously COVID happened. It's disastrous for everyone. And like I said, it may sound insensitive or even a little arrogant off the bat to say this due to what others may have experienced during the pandemic, but TP as a business thrived. It grew a lot. And the reason I don't want the statement to be taken negatively or out of context is because during COVID, businesses who could no longer maintain a physical presence or essentially, retain a store had to turn to e-com. And TP, as a business, we feel immensely proud that we were able to assist and support that to allow these businesses to carry on. So yes, we were growing, but we were growing because we were helping and assisting other businesses. So with what's happened with the pandemic, I think it's only kind of go that way as well, because a lot of people have realized we don't actually need physical stores. So much of this can be done e-com. More and more people are just turning to online stores to purchase basically everything. Like, just look what's happened to Amazon. There's literally nothing you can't not now get from Amazon, whether you're getting clothes or anything for your household. And we kind of just want to be at the forefront there, facilitating payments, but then at the same time, kind of helping newer businesses grow and almost kind of point them in the right direction as well. If they are new to the game, to the e-com space, how things can be improved. And a lot of that comes down to reporting, which is something that we're very, very big on. So when it does come to the e-com space, it's not as if, you've just taken a payment and we're paying you out and that's it. We'll provide any kind of data you need to analyze to see, well, how can I now better this and grow my business? Something you can't really get with a physical store either, to be honest.
Definitely. And you mentioned earlier, like, you view your customers as kind of like business partnerships where you're kind of giving them knowledge that you guys have acquired over the years and helping them to build like these solutions that best match their businesses. So I guess like not just were you there whilst this pandemic was happening and people were switching to e-com businesses, but I guess this approach probably served you quite well in terms of giving the personal approach to people who may be new to e-com and payment process in general.
100%. Like an example, e-com stores that are dealing in retail, we were able to get granular data of essentially what people were purchasing and when, quantities, everything. Yeah, e-com platforms can do that to a certain extent, but with the data we have, we can kind of give a different spin on it. And again, there's no real reason for us to have to do that, but the fact that we can recognize these little things with businesses, we'll just kind of be sitting in the office talking about just random conversation amongst ourselves and think, we could actually do this. Maybe it might be a good idea to offer this data out to merchants. And that's one thing that we're very proud of, is that we get so involved with these businesses as well.
Definitely. So you're leading the tech based on the requirements rather than the other way around.
Correct.
Perfect. So what's like the latest with total processing? What we talked about kind of how 2020 was. Obviously, it was a very successful year for you guys. You've grown, enormously. What's the plans for 2021, 2022? Any kind of like cool, like greenfield futuristic stuff that you have planned, or is it just kind of try and scale similarly to how we are at the moment?
So I'll reveal a few things without revealing too much. So kind of just going back to 2020.
Like exclusive.
That's for another time, I think.
Yeah.
In 2020, obviously we saw a lot of growth. We even received £5 million worth of funding towards the end of the year. So that was massive for TP. And essentially, we're now putting that use in 2021. So we've used it to expand the team a lot, especially when it comes down to tech and sales. We've hired some very talented individuals in both departments. Some experienced individuals, some kind of just new to the industry, so we can kind of nurture and grow them into their roles as well. We've expanded into Dubai. Yeah, essentially. We've expanded into Dubai, which was always being led by one of our directors and business owners, Alex Lee. And from an e-com perspective, the UAE is still a very much kind of an untapped market, and it's something that we're very much interested in. And we kind of want to get in there first before anyone kind of does as well. So we've placed a lot of emphasis on that, and we've made a few key hires there as well from a sales perspective. And in terms of the tech team, we'll be growing that out in Dubai as well. So that is kind of I wouldn't say the second sector, because Europe kind of falls into that as well, but we've very much been present in Europe. But we will eventually get that physical presence in Europe as well. In terms of location, we're still working on that as well. But those are the kind of key areas we're trying to target in 2021 and pushing into 2022. Everything for us is expansion. What we're doing at the moment, we feel like we're doing very well, but how can we keep doing that, scale it without any kind of issues occurring or any kind of, pop appearing? Without
jeopardizing what, kind of the current platform and what you've built already.
Correct. As I said, scaling a business can often be quite difficult. And the last thing we want to do is scale with headcount. Obviously, we are hiring people, but not at the expense of every time we win a new client, we have to hire someone else. I can't see any business surviving that way. But I don't believe that's how it's going to go for us. It's not been like that thus far. And if we can just kind of carry on doing what we're doing and just still keep streamlining in the process, I think there's some big things in store for TP.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was reading actually a couple of days ago about the kind of digital payments landscape in the MENA region, so the UAE, etc. And yeah, they're kind of hitting the payment growth that Europe were hitting like a few years back, and so there's huge expansion out there. There's massive opportunity. I've seen some of the clients that you've won. Obviously I'm connected with Alex as well, one of your co-founders, and I get to see like a few of the new clients you've won. So yeah, well, I guess anyone that's watching from that region at the moment, make sure you get in touch with Total Processing. I'm sure they can help you build like a great solution. Yeah, so I'm basically excited to see the kind of growth of Total Processing in that area of the world as well.
Definitely.
Cool. So yeah, for sure. Yeah. What's next in line then in terms of like product updates or features, or is there anything that you're particularly excited about that you could talk about today?
So like I said, without revealing too much, what I will reveal is our next big release will be Total Control 3. So I'll just kind of go into that as well. So I've been at TP for just over 3 years now. And one of the things I spearheaded from a development point of view was our front-facing platform that we give out to all of our merchants, but also use in-house, called Total Control. So I headed up the development for that. So that was Total Control 1. And about, I'd say between 12 and 18 months, we then released Total Control 2. It was an aesthetic overhaul as well as feature enhancements. And that is still in use now. So all of our merchants and clients get that. And it's an amazing tool. And it's essentially one of our biggest USPs as well. Reporting on the data is extremely granular when it comes to Total Control. As I've already mentioned, reporting that we're very big on.
Can you give an example of some of those?
In terms of the reports?
Yeah, exactly. What kind of reports can people expect?
I will move on to that after I've gone through the list. It kind of ties in with something else I want to talk about as well. So other features as well, like pay by links, which allows merchants to send out pay by links via SMS and email to make payments. So the customers essentially click on the link, they're presented with a form, and they can make that payment. And off the bat of that, we also then have invoices and receipts. So customers will get a receipt for whatever they've paid for, and merchants get notified. And our biggest USP is recurring payments, or what most people know by subscriptions. So I've not seen any kind of system that does recurring payments or subscriptions that is as intuitive as ours. So for example, if you do have, let's say, a 12-month schedule that's set up to go out on the 1st of every month for £10, our clients will have the ability to change the individual amounts, even though originally when you do create that schedule, it's set up for £10 to go out every single month. You can change the dates, so the payments don't necessarily need to keep coming out on the 1st. Add in payment breaks where you can completely omit payments. And that was a big one during the pandemic, because you can imagine with businesses like gyms that had to close down, they essentially had to freeze memberships. So this is a way that you can do it using card-based payments as opposed to direct debits. So, for argument's sake, let's say gyms were closed for 6 months, you could essentially omit 6 payments from every one subscription. But obviously you'd want to still recoup those payments at some point. So you can just add in extra dates to that schedule. And then the last thing being is you can actually then change the card that the schedule is linked to, which is a massive thing. So let's say if for whatever reason your card is no longer active, if it's been stolen or you've just lost it, as long as you have another card, you can simply just attach that to the existing schedule and it just carries on how it was. Now, coming back to your original question, Sean, about the reporting, when it comes to schedules, the reporting is extremely granular to the point where obviously, when people have missed payments, you're going to want to see a scheduled arrears report. So that gets churned out. Let's say if you're a business that has 10,000 schedules set up and payments are coming out every single day over the next 5 years, we have a calendar view where you can actually see how much you're bringing in on each date. Now, in terms of an aesthetic point, there's no real better illustration of how to see that than to see it on a calendar. Like imagine just having a physical calendar and you can just see sums and that is expected to come in. Now, with previous dates, it will also tell you what's been collected. So not only can you tell what's going to come in, but you can tell what's been collected and see if it matches up or not. And obviously, if it doesn't, people then have missed payments. Other reports we also have is seeing the kind of means of the payment, how it's been made. So whether it's just a standard card payment, whether it's a recurring payment, whether it's a payment from Apple Pay, Google Pay, Alipay, any kind of alternative payment methods, of which there's many that we do provide on our platform. You can have a complete breakdown of that. You can also have a complete breakdown of card issuers in terms of which banks people are with. Okay. So whether you see, let's say, all clients that have Santander cards that have made payments, or all HSBC or Barclays, but these are kind of just a few of the reports and how granular we can get down to when it comes to reports on our system.
So very detailed, basically.
Very, very detailed.
Very detailed indeed. Cool. And what we can fire a difficult question to you, right? So what are the most pressing tech or product challenges that keep you up at night?
It is a tough question, actually. I suppose the most pressing challenge is, I believe, it's actually a good one to have. So within the entire team, we've got an array of amazing ideas. There's ideas flying out every single day. And the issue there is that we still need to prioritize ideas and projects. In an ideal world, we like to execute all of them, but we know that's not feasible. So again, it comes down to, I think it is actually a good problem to have, is never running out of ideas. There's never a point where it's like, well, what do we do next? Or, what's in store for TP coming in the future? There's always something there. There's always a list that we have. There's always new innovations, new workflows, new services that we want to offer. And again, I love the fact that it comes from the entire team. So it's essentially just having a massive bucket of ideas. It just comes down to which ones do we prioritize and do first.
It's definitely a great problem. So it's about, I guess, like seeing the mass of ideas and then organizing and then putting them into buckets of what needs to be developed now, what can wait, that kind of thing. The perfect chief product officer's dilemma to have, I guess. What do the customers say about total processing? What's the kind of general feedback you guys get? I saw you had like an incredible Trustpilot score, so maybe you want to talk about that. Yes,
we do. So we're very big on customer feedback, and the feedback to date has been incredibly positive. A lot of what we've actually developed is off the back of the customer feedback we've received. So like I said, we view our customers and clients as partners. We do work with them in terms of, well, how do you think we can make this better? Because we think, obviously, if you belong to a particular sector, we think, well, then that would kind of apply to everyone, wouldn't it? So it's actually a very good idea for us to do that. So essentially with feedback, we view it depending on sectors as well. So let's say if there is someone in finance and we're getting particular feedback, a lot of it is positive. Like how I said, we take it on board. We like to instill it within all of our team members that this is what's being said. And it's essentially a product of everyone's effort. A lot of the feedback we do get is fairly automated as well, which is a great thing. I don't think feedback should ever kind of be pried out of people where you're constantly chasing them for these reviews as well.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves on the fact that these reviews that we do leave and the feedback we do get is kind of just from them, from their own kind of intuition, because they want to, because of the amazing service they are receiving from us.
Perfect. That sounds great. And do you think like any of these feedbacks, the positive ones, you believe to be like potential like payment trends in the market, or are they very detailed towards like someone's specific business or industry?
Oh, no, they tend to be very detailed towards their business. And, for them to be, like I said, for them to kind of just leave it because they want to leave it, it is going to be detailed for them. It is very much like, I love the fact you did this because this has worked amazing for me. It's very much about them, which we like. That's the thing. It makes people feel good. It makes the business owners feel good. And we know going forward, they will be, spreading that word across Manchester, across UK, amongst all of the business owners that they know, because it's a personal opinion, and that counts for a lot in any business. where you're kind of giving your own opinion towards something because it's more believable, as opposed to us having to pitch, which we obviously have to do because that's the sector that we're in, where, you know, we have a sales team, they need to sell the business, they need to sell the products, the ideas. But coming from business owners and making it more about them, I think makes it more personable.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Okay, so we're kind of coming to the end of the episode at the moment. So if anyone has any final questions on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're watching it, please pop them on and I'll make sure I ask them before the end of the episode. We do have a question that we ask like most of our guests, which is kind of like a bit of a different one.
Is it so a curveball question?
Not quite. I guess it's some kind of different to what you've received so far. But if you had a magic wand and you could cast a spell that allowed you to provide some like education or learning or something specific to all the 12-year-olds in the world, what is it that you'd want them to learn exactly? Like what do you think could benefit them most in life? Let's keep it in like a tech perspective.
It's a semi curveball question, that is, Sean. But okay, as much as I want to say tech, as we live in a world that is completely now dominated by tech, and I love tech, and essentially that's what I'd love everyone to do, I don't believe that's the right answer. You can't teach someone something that they have very little or no passion for. So my advice would be to find your passion, find something you enjoy doing and truly find fun to do. And, you know, for some, this may come early, for others, it may come late, but eventually something will hit you. You'll have that light bulb moment where you're like, oh my God, I absolutely love doing this. Because if you do learn that something, your work and your job will never feel like work. You'll always go into work with a smile on your face, and you'll always do it diligently and put in that 100% effort. You'll never do that if you're working in something that you just don't enjoy. So find something that you enjoy, is what I'd say.
That's a really great answer, actually, and very heartwarming as well. I think like I see it, you know, actually for those who aren't aware, Total Processing are one of NetGuru's customers, and meeting like a lot of the team there. This is like a feeling I get within Total Processing. It's like everyone cares about the outcome of the business. Everyone seems very like orientated on making the company a success. And I guess that's probably why like the steering of the growth has been in a positive direction over the past couple of years as well. So I can certainly back that kind of mentality. It belongs in Total Processing for sure.
I'd just like to add to that as well. Working with NetGuru, I think it's been an amazing partnership, and I think the biggest reason is because of the ethos that we share kind of resonates with NetGuru as well. It doesn't feel like an external team. It feels very much like we're just working together. We're collaborating on this amazing new project, which is Total Control 3, which you know, is my baby and I'm very proud of. And it's the first time I've kind of had to hand off a certain segment of it externally. But what an amazing team to hand it off to. I couldn't say, you know, good enough words, to be honest. It's been a great experience.
Thank you. Making me blush online. No, the team we have, you know, obviously I was involved in kind of the early stage of that, but the team that we have, if any of the team are listening online as well, obviously we can't see specific people, but they've done a fantastic job, and yeah, kudos to you guys. Cool. We have two questions. One is an interesting question. One is a bit of a silly one, and I'll save the silly one to last. So from Pedro Souza, we have, where do you draw the line between being pushy, asking for feedback, and making it easier for your users to give you feedback?
To be honest, I think it's a fairly easy question to ask users. I think it depends on the context of it. So let's say if someone has asked you to do a piece of work, let's say they kind of want some extra functionality. It's very easy to implement that and then ask, so what do you think? Is it working how you expected it to work, or can it be improved? So from that perspective, I think it's almost like a follow-up question. You'd kind of expect it. It's not something that you would do and not ask, is it right or is it wrong? I think when it comes down to, let's say, bringing on a new business on board that is happy with the tech and the services, I think you just need to give it a little bit of time. I think it doesn't make a lot of sense of bringing in a new business and then asking them on the third day, oh, what do you think? Would you like to leave us some feedback? It's only been 3 days. I think it kind of puts a bad light on you to do that as well, because it kind of makes you seem a bit needy. I think a lot of this is you have to let it be natural as well. A lot of this comes down to maintaining relationships with the people that you're dealing with. A lot of people, they don't buy into a business. They're actually buying into the people that are running the business. And that's a key thing. And a key thing that we like to project. If they're like you and, you know, you can resonate on a certain level and there is a certain synergy between individuals, they will be keen on your business. And if they're happy with what you've given, over time, you can easily just ask, well, so what do you think? And would you leave us some feedback? I don't think there's any kind of problem in doing that.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying like build it into part of the process rather than delivering and then waiting and then asking for like the feedback afterwards. You know,
correct. Just let it be natural. That's the thing. If you find it awkward to ask that question, it's probably because it's awkward timing. It's not the right time to ask.
Yeah, that makes complete sense actually.
Yeah.
Cool. We have another question actually. I'll run through this one. So Tomasz again. He's saying, speaking of priorities, who has the final vote on changes being introduced first in the company? Do you ever find conflicts between like product and marketing, or business and marketing, or business product?
This is a really good question because I haven't worked in a business where we do it the way we do it at TP. So when it comes to making a decision, it is genuinely a consensus when it comes to tech. So there are a few of us that will basically jump on a call and we'll just say how it is, completely blunt, and then we'll try to view it from the other person's angle. And it's honestly, it's an amazing call. It never turns into an argument. It's very insightful and it makes you think a lot, where it's like, oh, wow, I didn't look at it like that at all. And these individuals have been at TP for a fair amount of time. So the experience is there from a business acumen and a tech perspective. And every single decision that we do make between that group, we feel like is spot on. I don't feel like any of us have kind of yet, touch wood, made a bad decision. But again, I think it also then comes down to there's never really a problem discussing this stuff or asking other people. Ultimately, the decision may lie with someone else, but information needs to be fed upwards. And it's better fed if it's discussed with a few different people. So that's how we to do it at TP. Sorry, was there a second bit to that question as well?
No, actually, that was it. I was just going to talk about, I guess it's like Judy Singer, the sociologist, came up with this idea of neurodiversity. So it's like not just kind of having people from different walks of life, but different experiences, different viewpoints and backgrounds from different business perspectives. So like business, products, marketing, sales, etc. I guess this all comes together, and it sounds like what you're saying is, you know, the discussion is an open one, and that open discussion leads to more productive kind of feedback and decision making.
Well, 100%. If you're more informed in terms of what other people think and they show you different insights, ultimately, if you are the one who's making the decision, you're in a better place to do that.
Definitely. Cool. All right. So another question has just come through. So we'll squeeze this one in. This was again from Pedro. He says there's a famous quote from Henry Ford. If I had asked people what they'd wanted, they would have said faster horses. How do you, I like that quote. How do you mitigate that from happening at Total Processing?
I love that quote, and I'm familiar with it, but I know it from a different context as well. So it's when Steve Jobs was making the iPhone, and he basically said, I'm going to give people what I know they want, as opposed to asking them what they want, because they don't actually know. There's a very fine balance with this. That's the thing. It can sometimes verge on kind of being a bit of a narcissist and being a bit arrogant, and you can just completely get it wrong. So I think if you have enough experience and you've worked with enough businesses, you're more than well informed in terms of doing that as well. Again, it comes down to you're never too old to learn something new as well, though. So it is finding that middle ground. It's observing what's going on within the business and then thinking, you know what, I think this is what is going to take off and this is what people need. But then also still kind of doing your due diligence and research and talking to people to solidify that conclusion. Because if you just do it without asking anyone or anything, well, there's a high chance you may actually get that wrong. So it's still having that 50-50, still have that level of confidence where you can say, you know what, I think this is what people need. They may not know it now, but I believe in the future this is what's going to take off and this is what's going to work. But at the same time, don't be so blind to realize that you may potentially be completely wrong, and do get in another set of eyes and discuss it with, the resources around you, like how I mentioned, the best people around you, get their opinion, and then come to that conclusion.
So it's using your knowledge and experience with like some level of humility involved.
Correct. Nicely said, Sean. Yeah,
I think that's a good wrap up. Cool. And then we have one final question. I told you it was a silly one. You don't have to put this on the screen, whoever's controlling the thing, but people are interested. How much do you bench?
How much do I bench now, or how much have I done in the past? So
let's go for your highest ever number.
Okay, so the highest I've ever done is 190 kilograms. I'm not sure what that is in pounds.
Well done.
And what I do at the moment is about 150.
150. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think the answer is to Andy, who asked that, is probably more than you can. Cool. All right. I think we're gonna end it on that little silly note there. But Dally, it's been a pleasure, as it always is.
It's been amazing.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. And maybe we can do some more of these in the future. Who knows?
Definitely. Oh yeah, I would definitely come on. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.